Alright, it's lunch break at the shipyard. So, it's time for another quick question I have for you. So please respond if you have some thoughts. The last question I asked was regarding if Jesus was God, basically why were mere men able to manhandle him, to put a crown of thorns upon his head and mock him, and falsely accuse him and spit on him and punch him and lacerate him with a crown of 9 tails and torture him and crucify him? Why were men able to do that if he's God Almighty? And if you know your New Testament, you realize that he allowed them to do that. Nobody took his life. He, as the Good Shepherd, laid down his life. And unknown to the devil, to angels, to the nation of Israel, to anybody, the Messiah would come twice. The first time to die for sinners, the second time to reign with the redeemed. So he laid down his life. He allowed them to do that. But specifically, the crown of thorns. Why? Why the thorns? Well, if you read Genesis chapter 3, the thorns are associated with man's fall, with man's curse. All of us are cursed. All of us have sinned. All of us are facing death and hell. The wages of sin is death. And from the fall, there has been thorns and thistles and pain and suffering and death. And those thorns around his brow represent the curse of the law that all of us are under when we disobey what we know is right. When we sin against God, we're under the curse of sin. And Christ bore that curse, bore our sin, suffered in our place the judgment and wrath from God so we could escape that curse and be forgiven and saved. Alright, so that's the answer to that question. And there's lots more detail, of course. The question today that I have is, if you read John chapter 12, 1 through 12 especially, you realize that before his crucifixion, we know that Jesus was God. He knew when he knew his mission. He knew he was going to die on that cross. 5 days before he dies, he rides into Jerusalem. My question, why does he time it? Why does he time it to where he enters into Jerusalem, that he's there for 5 days? Why does he make sure that he's visible to the nation of Israel in Jerusalem for 5 days? That's my question. Why 5 days? And here's a hint, if you need it. You might find the answer in Exodus chapter 12. Let me know what you think.